thinking we're going to talk about a couple of things today. They have to do with somehow with something that we call intuition or learning. And because people are still joining and I don't want to waste your time, I'm going to play a video for you guys. Okay, so I just wanted to share 30 seconds of this. And let me know when you see my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But can you see the full screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Close
yeah,
enough.
it's all
Yeah.
black, but yeah.
Oh, it's all black. Okay, so here it go. Yeah. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I can't hear it.
We can't hear.
I can't hear any.
Carmela, we can't hear.
Oh,
It looks like it isn't playing. I see 1 second, and it looks like it stopped after 1 second, at least on my screen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to share that with you, and it's shame that you cannot hear what I hear, but well, it is what
If
it
it's a
is.
song, you can sing it for us.
It's not about me singing. It's about people singing. I cannot do that. I cannot share it. Shame.
So don't worry, be happy.
Yeah, watch it, please, afterwards. Yeah, it's 2 minutes long, but it definitely makes a point of how we learn. Yeah. So thank you very much for joining. I hope you find this meeting useful, because we're going to talk about pace, mainly about pace. No, but before that, just a couple of things. Well, I'm still accepting teachers. Okay, from previous meetings, I would like to focus your attention on something that was said, and it was said we were talking about low levels and how people were learning at low levels, and you know, there a lot was said, but then there are some things that make a difference, some things that really make an impact, and they might be lost in between all these comments that we're making. Yeah, because when we talk from our experience, we think, okay, so this is fantastic, and we agree to each other, but there is one thing that I want you to remember, and I believe it was Mari Carmen who mentioned it, and I really want to take her point and her words in it. She said, when students don't understand, I move on. Yeah, this realization or this conclusion is absolutely valid, not only valid, but it makes a difference. And it makes a difference in something that, in the objective of the talk for today, which is pace. Yeah. So pace is one of our quality standards, or one of the standards that we would like you guys to understand very well. Pace has to do with time, and time is something abstract. So we'll try to make it a little bit more specific. Yeah. So I want to start by asking you something. Now imagine that you are in your first day of class ever, not with new students, not at Oxinity, first class ever, with yeah, you haven't taught before, and now you are. So how would you start a class? What would you do? Jazz.
I think I've never taught before, and this is my first experience as a teacher. The only experience I've had is doing training and presentations. So before I went on the webinars and seminars with Oxinity, I did the obvious thing like chit chat. Hi, good morning, breaking the ice. How are you?
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Which is my natural way of introducing myself to someone new and breaking the ice.
Okay, thank you. That's great. And how about you, Guillermo? First seconds ever.
Well, I think I would take into account the level and the age, but I think one of the first qualities a teacher should have is listening. So if you listen to who you have in front of you, then you can adapt and you can know what to teach and how to teach it and at what pace to teach it. So what I would try to do in that first day was to know who is in front of me and what their needs are. If you don't know somebody's needs, you cannot fulfill them.
Okay, fine. That's fine. Well, something you will know about that the students. Yeah, there are the hypothetical situation of knowing nothing is pretty much non-existent, right? We have a starting point always. Yeah, being it the level, being it the age, we have a starting point. So certain expectations there. So first minutes or first seconds for Fiona, for instance.
Hi there. I think I would say hello, say my name, and ask them to tell me a little bit about themselves, if they could, depending on their level. But for more advanced, sorry, that's my doorbell. It's ignore that.
Okay.
Then yeah, tell me a bit about yourself. And if it was somebody that didn't have very much English, then I would use pictures or. Sorry, maybe it's not the best time to be chatting.
This is it. Yeah, this is quite natural. Yeah, it feels very natural. We first introduce ourselves. And we ask people to introduce themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is something that a teacher in their first day, after they have done their training, would do. Yeah. Are you in this stage? Jazz is. Well, not anymore. Yeah.
No,
So
not anymore. Yeah.
not anymore. Okay. So who here is at that stage? Anyone? No?
I can't hear.
Okay, guys. So those of you who are not speaking, would you mind silencing your microphones? Thank you. Okay, so if anyone here is at that stage, yeah, why do we need to ask these questions? Patricia.
Well, obviously, this is I don't know, in my case, I think this is the old traditional way of starting a class when you didn't have the first stage like set. Now we don't really need it. I mean, we have already the first stage prepared. We only have to start with the quick questions, and there is where you can see actually the level of the students, if it is the real level that they have set us that they had or whatever. And in my case, for example, I don't really teach really low levels, but when it comes, I adapt a little bit those quick questions so that they can feel like from the most secure first question until the most difficult with, I don't know, wood or hat or something like that. But it's true that we don't really need to introduce ourselves. You can say, hey, my name is Patricia, how are you? I always say, are you ready for your class? And then I start. But yeah, in this, with using these methods, I don't feel like I have to think about how to start any class. The beginning is already set, so I just go ahead with the quick questions.
That's great. Now back to your first day ever. Yeah, first day ever for you doesn't mean first day ever for your learners. Yeah. So now imagine every single teacher that teaches these guys asking them the same questions. Who are you? What do you do? Yeah. What can you introduce yourself? What is your profession? Are you this? Are you that? It feels very awkward. Okay. So first day for you and first day for your students is not the same, and time has different. It feels different, right? Time. Do you know, or can you tell me, or can you guess what are your learners' expectations, being them new or not new to the system? Do you know what they expect from you? Blanca, what do you think?
I think they expect to always leave with something new, to feel like they've actually learned something and they've not wasted their time, whether it's the first class or you're 20 classes in. Yeah.
Okay, and what can make them waste their time? Because I think it's a key concept.
Yeah, I think it's those types of questions, you get to know them through the material and the topics and everything anyway. So I think they do feel like they've wasted their time if we're just like whatever, however you call it, just like filling in with filler questions.
Filler questions. Who knows what filler questions are? Do you guys know? There must be a lot of CELTA teachers here, so you must know what a filler question is.
think
No?
questions
Not a
that you
question.
use
Yes,
just
you
to
don't
fill
need
the
to
awkward
know. You
silence.
don't listen
Oh,
just to that. Say?
I think the questions you ask just to like, so it doesn't feel awkward, but then it ends up
Exactly.
feeling more
To fill
awkward.
the silence. Yeah. They're real experts in filler questions. Okay. Anna, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something regarding expectations. Actually, it's something I was thinking yesterday, like how is my student feeling when he start the class? Well, I think that they expect something interesting, first of all, not boring class, because maybe some of them they are afraid of, getting bored or not motivated. And again, they expect from the teacher to teach them, not just have, a talk, a chat about their everyday things, likes and dislikes, right? So basically, they want to learn something and they don't want it to be boring, right? So I think that these are the expectations basically from the student.
And how do you guide them to that knowledge? What do you do to provide that?
Well, I just basically when I start the class, I even if some students tend to, tell me their life from the very beginning, if I try to kind of shorten that and basically I just go directly to the purpose of the class, right? So the more we do, the more we learn, the better. And again, after 15 minutes, if we haven't acquired one material, then we just move forward.
So how do you organize your class?
Well, it really depends on the day, depends on many factors, depends on the group. But normally I tried again to do, well, first the quick questions. If they want to tell me something, because these are private students and they always want to tell me something from the beginning, I just leave them a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, nothing more. And then we just go straight to the point. We start normally with some vocab, then we go to some grammar, then we go to the topic, then we go to pronunciation. And well, that's the ideal way. But sometimes, of course, you may stuck between two grammars, one vocab, or you may start with the topic, then move to grammar, or start with pronunciation. So basically, I tried just to combine these four things and not waste time at small, speaking about our daily things from the very beginning, basically.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Mari Carmen has a comment to make.
Yeah, I just wanted to say concerning lower levels, especially kids, and not to waste time at the beginning, and also to make them feel comfortable and sort of overcome this thing of I'm new, there are no students there, is make them feel that you know them already, and the class moves on in the sense of, hi, this, not wasting time saying, oh, you're new, how are you doing? Because with kids, I think that is the beginning of the disaster in terms of wasting time. So since they're the ones, in a way, what I'm trying to say is that they're the ones that jump in a class that is already settled. Therefore, the class always continues the same way, whether they're new or not. And I think that helps them say, oh, I'm in. Like they adapt much better. That the opposite as making a fuss of you're new, how are you doing here? We are in the class or whatever. So I think at least with kids, if you don't let them speak and you just get the reins of the class straight away with, are you ready to have some fun? And they'll look at it like, yeah, right, as if in an English class, but they're already a bit catching their attention there. And from then you've got the reins and there's no more wasting of time. Of course, there's small incidents every now and then, but you kind of ignore them. So they jump back in because the other two students that are talking. So, you're the awkward one if you move around the room, like sometimes it might be the case. So then they have to quickly come back because you're saying their names, but you can't see them. But then they realize, okay, you move on to the next one, and then next round they're back. So I think for lower students, it's much more natural to make them feel as if you already know them. I don't even tell them my name; they can see it on the screen, and they even write it. So, so they make that extra effort of participating by not doing all these long beginning of the story, hello, etc.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very true. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, that just summarizes very well the whole idea of how to make the most of the class time. Julian, you wanted to share something as well?
I suppose my experience of, especially with groups, is sometimes you get people arriving late, and it's you don't want to start something and someone arrives right in the middle of the activity, so you give them like 5 minutes. So it's small talk for like 5 minutes, which is annoying for me, and I imagine for well, not well, definitely annoying for me, because you're, as I say, you don't want to go back on yourself right just after you explained it and started something, and it's, I suppose the how are you is sort of trying to give people time to arrive, but if you have a half-hour class, then you don't really have time for that.
I had this situation years ago when we used to have in-person meetings, and people would arrive late because, well, it was all right, you know, to arrive late, until I just started the meetings. And what happens is that if they want to participate from the beginning, they have to be punctual. I don't remember ever being angry at anyone for not being on time, but I didn't wait. Never. You cannot wait in 30-minute classes. Wait for what? If you wait, who is the one that you're actually punishing? Let's think out loud. The student that is punctual.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I mean, I'm used to sort of hour and a half, some occasionally 2-hour classes. So, and suddenly half an hour, you can't waste time. There is no opportunity to do so. So it's got to be sort of right in from the beginning. But it's
absolutely. It's very sorry. You were saying?
You said the sort of introducing yourself to me was sort of like just a quick test of just seeing what was coming at me, because often you get like this level is B2 or B1, and someone is definitely not B1 in that group, so you try and isolate them very quickly, and it's like quick questions just to sort of just to get responses and see what's happening. And I do agree that it's a repetitive thing, and it's annoying it must be annoying to have that if that group settled, but it's getting out of the habit of doing it.
Try. It is life-changing. I can tell you this. Absolutely, but not only for you. You're changing habits of your students, because when they when they understand that you're making the class meaningful from the very first minute, they really will not want to waste anything from the class, and they will be on time. People that are not on time, don't expect them to wait for them. People that are not on time have issues. Fine. But if we have one student already, we start with that student, and we start with the quick questions. We start we start with something meaningful. And when we have a newcomer, we don't stop, and we don't explain, and we don't, we don't start over. We don't do that. We just continue. Yeah. The person that is late knows that they are late, so they don't expect that everyone stops and wait for them. Imagine it from the point of view of the people that are there. No small talk. Small talk is, and especially if you tell me that you dislike it. So let's start with something meaningful from the very first moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do
you? If people have arrived late, sometimes I've gone, okay, so you've been in the class, you explain to them what we're doing, and then to at least sort of get them to reaffirm knowledge of what's happening, then and I can drop in correct when necessary. But it's
that's when
I agree with you actually entirely. It's one of the things, if they're late, they're late. They have to catch up. It's sort of not your problem.
It has to be something that is meaningful for everyone. It's like a pact. It's a pact. So it's either their rules or your rules, without us being. We're not dictators, but we do set certain rules, yeah, in the classroom. So it has to be something that that works for the group, yeah, not just for the last person to join the class. Chris, you wanted to say something as well?
Yeah, I'm a prime example of this. I tuned in 2 minutes late, and I don't know what you said at the start. So what am I supposed to do?
Watch the Friday talk. We're going to post it. No, I'm joking. No, I'm happy. This is just this is a webinar, and we were talking about the pace of the class. So I was actually greeting the teachers. Yeah, you haven't missed anything relevant. So we were talking about the pace of the class, and we were talking about what happened in the last webinar. But what we are,
Not having any small talk at the start of the class.
we don't have small talk. We can talk about everything with you guys here, discuss everything. But once with students, we have to ask ourselves one question only, not asking them that question, but asking ourselves that question. What do they want? What do they want? This is the question. What do you want? This is the question that you have to ask yourself. And you have to have a very clear answer. What do they want is Blanca summarized it brilliantly. Not to wait to learn something new, not to waste their time. These are the things that they want. To learn and not to waste their time. Yeah. So, but you don't ask this question to them. You don't ask, what do you want? Do you want vocabulary? Do you want grammar? You don't ask that. You know that. You know that they have to have their vocabulary activity and their grammar activity and their fluency activity. You know it because you are prepared. Yeah. If you are prepared, you start a bit. If you start a bit, you ask questions and then you collect a lot of data. We'll talk about that. What data are these? They're very relevant, and you teach and you help them and you guide them to new learning. There are questions that we don't ask because we should know the answers. Yeah. Steve, you want to mention something?
Can you hear me okay? My signal's not great today.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. It's just this thing about the late arrivals. I mean, we've got obviously the short questions, which can take 1 or 2 minutes depending on how many students are already there. But then you've also normally most units got 2 or 3 other questions. I mean, we talked about last week about whether or not we type into the chat box, but strikes me one solution here is you could cut and paste those 2 or 3 starter questions into the chat box, and if any late arrivals then come in, they can see in the chat box what we're talking about. Yeah, so it might help them to focus straight on the joining mid conversation. It might be before you actually move on to the main unit, but there's always 2 or 3 questions, aren't they, right at the start there? So that's where maybe using the chat box could be useful, perhaps.
I like it very much. I think it's a very good usage of the chat box. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. But all in all, I mean, of course, if we have a newcomer, a new student that arrives halfway through, of course, we're going to make a brief introduction of what we're doing. Of course, this is fine. What I'm saying is not to stop and start over again and again. Yeah, this is it. Patricia?
Yeah, what I normally do when people arrive late is I get one of the students in the class to explain what we're doing, like in 50 seconds. So they can, it's not me stopping the class, it's other students saying or making the one delay catching up, and then we start straight away, for example.
That's a good practice. What do you guys think? I like it very much. I think it's great. Yeah, involve the rest of the students so that, okay. Yeah, that's great.
I like to do that too, and I also think that it's important to stop the class when it's a good point for the pace of the class, right? Even if they come in, like it doesn't have to be exactly when they come in. They can figure out how to kind of incorporate themselves, and then when it's a good time for the activity, that's when you stop it to explain.
Okay, yeah, great. Jazz, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, if you have a regular student, for example, in the last 3 weeks, I've had a particular student every other day. I'm obviously still adjusting to quick questions because it's something I haven't done before. I'm just being used to always building up relationship with, when you talk to people. But if it's a regular student, it just feels a bit odd to, not monotonous, but odd to jump into quick questions where the natural thing would be a little bit of chit chat. Or do you do what Patricia suggested, you adapt to that. You know, you improvise a little bit. I don't know if I'm just sharing my.
Again, the perspective, you have to, it would be a good idea sometimes to observe from and to observe classes from the outside, yeah, just to analyze. And it's not the same feeling when you are teaching than when you are learning. It's not the same, yeah.
Okay.
Chit chat has no purpose whatsoever. It's time filler. Time, but why? Time for what? What's the purpose of it? If had it had a purpose, I would say, okay, so they learn to chit chat. If that's the purpose of chit chatting, go for it. Yeah, we want them to learn to do some small talk, to chit chat, etc. Yes, social behavior. If that's the objective, it's all right. Otherwise, it feels really a waste of time. That alone can provoke late delays in your students joining to the class. Because if they feel that at first you are doing nothing, why bothering to be on time? Yeah. So, Blanca, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that also the getting to know them, it kind of does happen through the quick questions because they're asking, they're bringing up things about them, and you can make a quick comment and you're still building that relationship without, without like making it chit chat and making it like filler. I think that it is, and you're analyzing what they need, what grammar they don't understand, and things like that.
Actually, Ben, well, I'll ask you something after Ben has commented.
Hi guys, yeah, I joined late, so we're discussing late arrivals, right? If I got it straight.
Yay.
And okay, once I've done the quick questions, that's done. I've moved on. I'm doing what I'm doing. If somebody comes in, I might say something quickly like, "Hey, we're just discussing the verbs in the past." That's it. And something I do, might sound weird, in a very subtle way, is give preference to the guys who have arrived on time. It's I don't ignore the newcomer, of course, but I give more talking time to the others in a way that I find it works. The next class, they're on time.
That's a good tip. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
It has to be subtle. You can't just ignore them because, of course, that's not the point. They have to be part of the class. But in a certain subtle way, it's like, okay, you're late, so you basically the idea is follow us. We're not following you.
Yeah, well, I think it's a good tip for those who have this situation. It's a good tip. So when you prepare for your class, do you have a clear idea what activity you will start with? It's for everyone. Yeah, for instance, I don't know, Autumn is here, or yeah, Autumn. I can't hear you though. Okay, maybe
Can you
she
hear
has.
me now?
Now, yeah.
Okay. If it's my personal students, like my own students, I have a clear idea of how I want to start. And it also depends on what the activities are, like how they're made, what's the goal, how they're done. So sometimes I'll start with like either vocabulary or if I realize that last class, like they were struggling with the grammar and I see like another grammar activity, then I'll start with grammar. I try to leave like the topics for either the middle of the class or towards the end of the class. So I feel like they have enough time to like talk and to speak. And I want to make sure that at least I've covered like some important grammar or some vocabulary first that I feel like they need. With the open web classes, it's a bit hard, especially if the students are changing like every week. So it's really hard to see like what it is that they need. But I'll always try to start with like vocabulary, like never grammar. So I'm gonna get them talking, maybe a topic, then grammar. It really just depends on the on like the flow of the class and how everything's like flowing. Like if it's flowing really well and they don't really need to or the grammar maybe it's not like so important for them, I just gloss over it really quickly and I'll stick to like topics or vocabulary. And that's kind of like how I do it, but I have to like actually like look at all the activities, look at like the teacher's notes, and sometimes I make adjustments depending on the group, if I know the students or if I don't know the students. So
what information do you get from when you start, for instance, with a vocabulary or topic activity when you don't know your students so well? What information do you get from it?
when I start with like a vocabulary topic, I'm listening for like pronunciation. I'm listening for like if they know the vocabulary. I'm checking for a lot of things. Sometimes I might have them read something, just like something real quick, and I'm making notes. And then I always like adjust by in that way. And they actually kind of like it. Sometimes they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize I was pronouncing this wrong. Like no one's ever told me." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I always try to give them tips with pronunciation as well. But like tips of how to pronounce words, not like how to write. I was like, please don't write the word like this in English. That's not how you spell it. But they've always really liked the pronunciation tips, especially with certain like letters, like the like PH or GH and things like that. And they're like, oh, I had no idea. So.
Okay, great working on pronunciation. No, that's great. So just if I understood well, if you don't know the students very well, you just go for something that would give you information and then you build from it. That's a very good approach.
You could probably find out a lot about them just by hearing them talk. And then you can see, okay, well, they have to like, work on grammar, or they have to work more on pronunciation. And then you can make notes on the little like note thing and write it for the next teacher. So like the next teacher will know. Because if there's a note, like a little red dot, I always like look at it before I start the class. And sometimes it's like really helpful. It's like, oh, this person struggles with ED endings, or this person does that. So then I'm like, okay, then maybe I will focus more on this activity to kind of like help them improve and then work my way through.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. Mari Carmen?
Hi. What at least works for me is creating a routine. Since we're talking about half an hour and we are talking about optimizing the time, I think it helps them to expect a routine, which for me works with structure, vocab, and topic, which is the way to warm up in order to be able to end up speaking. And I think that routine, especially with kids, works very well, because when they know what's going to happen, when there's a routine created, even though every activity is different, I think it helps them focus. So I always follow the same routine and the same structure. Having said that, the first question I make them, I try to be indirectly related to something that's going to happen further on down the class.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. How about you, Ben?
Hi, yeah, I agree with both. I do the routine thing, and I find good for me to start with the pronunciation activities that are part of the vocab. So it's usually very fast, quick, and I get a clear idea of where they stand, what they know. So, and then from there, usually structure, maybe topic, and then go back to something more if I have time, usually. But yeah, the pronunciation one to begin, I think for me works well, because I get an idea of what's going on, how they are.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you. And Julian?
Well, I suppose the preparation thing, it all depends. There are some students, I do have one particular student I teach right now, and the only prep I really do is actually have some subjects to talk about, but this is not a normal thing. Normally you have a subject, you have particular activities, and the higher level you need to, I suppose I always tend to allow for more, I suppose, the ability to deflect the subject a bit more in different ways depending on what comes up. Lower levels, it's always, everything goes by the book. You know what you want to do, and you just follow through with each part as much as you can do. Hopefully
Yeah.
you've covered enough to get to the end, but not go beyond it. Or
Okay.
not sure. But it's, I don't know, it's, yeah, sorry.
How important is planning for you?
Again, it depends on the student, and you get to know if I don't know the student, then it's much more important. If I know the student, then it's much easier to be flexible around what you do want to do, and whether you need to do a particular thing. As I said, there is one particular student, and the formulaic stuff doesn't engage her brain. So I've and the classes, she has enough of a level to, she has quite a good level, but a lot of it's just refining. It's not teaching grammar. The grammar comes in, it's built in whenever things come up, so you can start to pick up on bad habits, and then that's something you can come back to and work with. But a lot, it is all dependent on the student and how well you know them, though. And it's always
how do you introduce grammar to your students so that they react in a different way?
Again, that's with most of them. I usually have something which I like a short activity. Most of my students are high level right now, so it's like a very short thing just to make sure their knowledge is clear in it, and then it's trying to elicit that structure from them, so that they can then use it in a more, I suppose, try and build it into the way they work. But say this one particular student, it's when the grammar comes up, I often ask her what she remembers.
But I just wonder how does a grammar come up? I just don't understand that. How can a grammar come up? Do you introduce the grammar activity like now we're going to do grammar activity, or how does it come up?
Often, I have a few students now. They'll say that I will use a subject. This morning, I had a class, and I was using management styles. So
Okay.
using activities sort of to actually work to talk around these subjects and to add bits of vocabulary around it, and how to present points, like instead of talking around it, bullet points, keep things short, concise, clear, because that's what she requires for her. Those are her needs right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Later on, I have the special student, not in a negative way, in a positive way, and it is literally picking up a subject. With her in particular, she wants to switch off from work.
Do they, all of them, I think, want that. I think it's quite common in students, right? That they want to switch and that they don't want the class to be a torture. Yeah. So it's quite a natural reaction, but we can elicit and we can help them achieve that without creating the the idea of, okay, so grammar is difficult, whereas topics are pleasant. I think it's wrong. I think it's just language. Yeah, we're activating language all the time, only that we're doing it from different perspectives. So actually, it's quite natural that our students want to really take a class to learn something and to put in practice their knowledge without it being split into now is the difficult part, now is the pleasant part, now is the meaningless part, and now is the meaningful part. I think that these are very if we try to do this, if we split the class that way, we're actually harming the student, in my opinion. That's what I think. I don't know what you think. Anna, what do you think?
Well,
Well, first,
what do you mean? Okay.
Yeah.
The students I have right now are generally quite high level, and I know what their requirements are. Are you actually taking the language they have, or the level that they have, and using it in meetings, being able to present clear, specific points. Their understanding level's good, and a lot of it's about building the confidence as well as the ability, helping them identify where they're making the mistakes, and which mistakes in particular may cause misunderstanding. So it's very specifically aimed at imparting information. So and this is on a specific subject. But a lot of this with a few of them, the majority of them, I'm actually using a specific subject and working from there. So it's a subject that comes first, not anything else. And the activities are around expressing the language required for that particular subject.
Right.
So it is, as I say, I'm teaching lower level classes. It is you're choosing a subject, a grammar point, or whatever, and you are structuring the whole thing much more rigidly. So it is very much dependent on what you're doing. If you don't know your students, then you have to have a more rigid structure. So it is.
It's all the time trying to understand what the student doesn't know, right? So what they don't know is what we have to focus. It's all the time. It's more obvious at low levels, of course. So, and less obvious in high levels when they have certain amount of fluency, and we have to we have to be quicker and quickly see what they don't know. We have to quickly get to that, whereas in low levels it's more evident. Yeah.
Easier to predict as well.
Exactly. That's it. Okay. So Anna, how about you? You wanted to mention something.
Well, first of all, I'm a grammar lover, so I enjoy teaching grammar. Not in a traditional way, right? But I find English grammar something that is, being non-native speaker, something that is fascinating. As I don't know, I love grammar, right? That's what I can tell about myself. And when I teach grammar, for example, well, my strategy has changed, especially now in Oxinity. So instead of, let's say, traditional way of introducing grammar, right? Let's now talk about present perfect, right? So instead of doing that, you just I don't know, I click on the activity, the grammar activity. The activity is displayed on the screen, and I start with a question just to check if the student identifies this grammar or not, instead of introducing that. So if it's present perfect, I would ask a question. Have you ever done something, right? If the student struggles to reply, then I model my own example, and then I ask the student again. So for example, I have been to France 2 times, right? And have you ever been to France, right? So this way I start with modeling first, and then once the student intuitively identified what the grammar is going to be, then we go to the rules and practice and production and so on. But actually students find it funny because it kind of brainstorming them. So probably it's a good way to introduce grammar instead of traditional.
I love it. To me, it's the best way, actually. It's the way to make them use it without scaring them, and eventually you're creating you're establishing long-term strategies with them. You are focusing on or identifying whether they know it, whether they don't know it, and you're deciding what to activate next. I like it very much. Let's hear Adam, and well, there Adam, then Georgina and Emma. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah. I just wanted to say pretty much the same as Anna, really, because I think you can use it if you know your student. You can kind of teach it quite inductively, because that's what we want to be doing anyway, like presenting examples, giving them, when you move on to something in grammar, give them an example, see if they know it, just like Anna said. But if you know your student, you know, you could introduce like the past continuous in that kind of way. But if you don't know your student, a good way to do it is like through the links in activities, no? So like you need to think, if you're doing, what was a topic this week? The China social credit system, and you know you've got a structure activity coming up next. So you can think to yourself, okay, so how can I, you know, put in the present perfect, for example, if you're moving on to that, like so when you've kind of come to the end of that topic, you know, have you been to China or something like this? You can introduce it in that kind of way, and it just works in your favor because it makes the classes flow a bit better as well.
That is a mastery level. What you're talking about is a real mastery level. Yeah. So what you are telling here, what you are explaining here is that you know what's going on in your class, that you know what you have to teach. That's mastery level preparation. And not only you know it, but you can incorporate it and think forward. I love it. So it's something very interesting that all of you can do, guys. Yeah. So eventually, that way, if we are used to thinking that way, yeah. So for instance, while I'm performing my first activity, which is I don't have to think about it so much, which are the quick questions, but they can give me some information. Yeah, I'm thinking of my first activity. While I'm performing my first activity, I know what's coming next, and I can kind of either transition to it smoothly or incorporating some of the vocabulary or some of the grammar or whatever, kind of to link it to the next one, yeah, and so on. I think it's great. So eventually here we're talking about a performance from the teacher that is based, I mean, let's face it, yeah, we can improvise, of course. A class can be, what do you want to talk about? But for that class, no one would pay anything. For that class, we have an alternative, that is exchange. I'm going to do this exchange with someone, and we're going to sit in a coffee shop and we're going to chat. Yeah, that is not worth the money that people would pay for quality classes. What people would pay if for a process like the one that Adam has just described, yeah, a teacher that is so well prepared for them that he's not only prepared for the students but also for the unknown. You cannot improvise unless you have this type of preparation. You cannot improvise unless you're absolutely aware of what comes next. Yeah. So there are two types of preparation. There is a syllabus, for instance. I know that it seems sometimes that we have just a series of activities. Behind that, there is a syllabus. When there is a syllabus, there are objectives. When there are objectives, there is a constant checking whether these objectives have been met or not. If you say, for instance, a teacher forgets to take the attendance, they remember to take that attendance is not taken when it comes to payment. Oh, I forgot to grade the activities. Hold on. Not only you forgot to grade the activities, you forgot that you were performing activities, you forgot to check for understanding and knowledge, and you forgot to put the input whether the content was acquired or not. That's what you forgot. So you forgot that there is a learner there that expects to understand what they learned eventually after this class. This is what you forgot. Yeah. So guys, you have to know what you're doing in class. Yeah. All my questions were a little bit targeted at that. There is a syllabus. This is the long-term preparation, and in each class we're checking and we're providing inputs for the students whether they have acquired it or not. And we waste their time, we lose them. We ask questions that are not part of the learning process, we lose them. We go for the small talk instead of something meaningful, we lose them. Not only we lose the students, we're losing someone else's students. You are teaching when you see open web classes, you are teaching someone else's students there. It's someone else's clients that you might be losing if the class goes slow, with no purpose, with no, just based on improvising here and there, trying to understand the student, trying to understand what they need. Yeah. So when you're teaching someone else's students, preparation is key. It has to be above any suspicion. None of you would want to be, not to be mistrusted, for instance. Yeah. If I trust you with the students of other people, you would want to gain the trust of your partners. So this is the pace of the class. And this is when we choose to ask one type of questions and not to ask others. Not to ask for personal questions. We don't do that, because a personal question is very intimidating. To ask someone whether what they do, or whether their parents are this and that, or what they work, or where they live, this can be very intimidating. There is no learning in it. There is curiosity and lack of preparation. So I think that we have to reflect very much on how we prepare and what's the pace of our class. Yeah. So and I think that Adam summarized it brilliantly. Yeah, I just love it. I think that's it. If you can remember something, remember what he said. Think ahead, knowing what's in front of you, knowing what you have to teach, and think ahead. Emma, you had a comment to make.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It was just going off from what Anna was saying earlier about being, not launching directly into the activity in itself, but, gauging for example, the past perfect, gauging if they understand the past perfect. Just to say that the intro questions, when they're done really well, and when the pace of the class is quick, I find them super useful to be able to do that, what Anna just said, because the intro questions can really give you insight into what the student already knows, and then from using those intro questions you can actually go into the next activity and much better idea. So just when creating activities, for me, I find the intro questions super useful, and when the pace of the class is really quick, and you want to fit 3 activities into half an hour, then it's really good to have decent intro questions.
That's absolutely very important, and thank you for mentioning it. And I still remember the day when I may have said that. Sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I do remember the day when one of our teachers said, we need an activity, a complete activity is not just an exercise. Hey, let's practice this because it's present perfect, nice. We need an engaging introduction. I know the name of the guy. I remember that. That was one of the things that made a before and after. So it's very important. Equally important and helpful are the wrap-up questions. If well written, they can be the great transition. So if you want to know who that teacher is that actually wanted good intro questions, James Dell'Espino, a name to remember, made a difference. Yeah. And many of the practices that we developed afterwards came from that reflection. And also our technology changed that in this moment. Our technology wasn't prepared for that. Our technology was as though we had a book, a textbook, yeah, written by us, but a textbook. Our technology changed, and all the classes changed from that request from that person. So thank you for reminding me, Emma. It's very important. The intro questions are very important. Okay, so guys, to wrap it up, I would like you to remember that you have a system as an ally, and the system thinks ahead for you as well, and it shares its thoughts with you through the activities. Yeah, the activities are an instrument or a tool for you to check and to detect gaps in knowledge and to help the students overcome these gaps in knowledge. Yeah, you have to be there so that they don't waste time, but you have to help them produce learning. They have to learn. New learning has to happen in every single minute of the class. And if in 60-minute classes or in 90-minute classes, we can have the luxury of time fillers, in 30-minute classes, we don't have that. Yeah, Blanca is right. We don't have time for time fillers. They bring nothing. So your class will be better if you remember these things. Yeah, we start with quick questions, but we're thinking in our first activity already. From the quick questions, we're thinking ahead. So, well, Chris is back, although we are already we're going. So when we master this process of thinking ahead, we're mastering something that indirectly helps students a lot, which is developing intuition in them. And if you want to know how it works, I have shared that Bobby McFerrin video. Watch it. It's 2 minutes long, 2 minutes 40, but it has a great lesson to teach. Okay. Anyone else? Any comment? Do you have any needs? Do you want us to talk about something next time? How about you, Georgina? Would you like us to talk about something in particular next time?
No, nothing in particular, really. Just something that I mentioned to you. Maybe it would be nice, honestly, to get to know each other a bit better, because I'm constantly thinking, you know, what teacher works in Madrid, what teacher works in Valladolid, what teacher is there, what are the expertise? Because when I talk to possible clients and they ask for things, I just don't know what to do, except like, okay, we'll check and ask Radmila. So maybe if I directly know who is where, and if they do face-to-face classes, if they maybe work with kids, if they like, you know, business, it would be nice. Because then I would know exactly who to talk to.
We can organize a virtual get-together, yeah, if you want, Georgina. Okay.
Well, if everybody wants, I think it would be useful. Yes. But if everybody wants to do that, and then I think, like I, for example, I know Blanca Sanchez, and now I see her face. That's nice. Okay. I know Cristina Silva, and I see her face now. That's cool. Like, you know, they're not just names floating there around LinkedIn anymore.
Okay.
So it's nice.
We'll organize something for 15-20 minutes, a get together where, yeah, we can do that. Amazing. Okay, Blanca.
I'm struggling just to get clients. Like getting started is difficult for me. So I don't know, something along those lines would be helpful. How to kind of.
Okay, individually, me and you, or you and me, can work it out. Yeah, because at this point, I think that you're ready for just something very specific. Yeah. Okay. So let me know for next week. We will plan it.
Okay. Thank you.
If you have that, if you want to grow in students, you will.
Okay.
Steve, you wanted to share something, say something?
Yeah, I was communicating with Olga as well, I think, who's gone now, but mentioned World Book Days coming up. It's different in different countries, which I hadn't realized, but I think it's the worldwide ones in April. So it's just that, you know, maybe closer to the time, you know, activities and such, looking at literacy more generally. But I've got this thing about how do we engage parents with fairly low levels of English who want to help their kids read. So it's kind of getting their head around those sorts of activities and what could we do more widely in terms of a literacy projects and those sorts of things. But I think it's mid-April, isn't it? I think World Book Day. So we've still got some time to think about it.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. One of our Friday talks can be devoted to that. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Anyone else? What do you need? What do you want? Anything to share? Okay. So thank you guys for this great talk. Really appreciate it. You have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Radmila.
Bye.
Bye.